Yo, what's up, everybody? I'm back for another reaction video. Your favorite historian in YouTube. I'm kidding. But I am definitely your favorite Caribbean history YouTuber. And welcome to Historiando once again. I am Dr. Edwin Jusino. I have a doctorate from the Inter-American University in Puerto Rico. For those of you that didn't know, I have a doctorate in American history with with some focus on Puerto Rican soccer, but of course I am trained in American history in general, and we are going to be reacting again. Apparently this is becoming a reaction channel. I do apologize. I have some videos I haven't been able to edit, that they are already filmed. I just haven't been able to edit them. I have some videos about El Yunque and, other places that are touristy videos, which is a part of, a series of videos that I want to create, but I haven't been able to. It's just I've been very busy with Football Boricua, and honestly, hopefully, I will have more time after this next week. So be on the lookout for those videos. There's also a video coming from a museum visit that we're going to be doing soon. So hopefully you will be able to enjoy those, and do remember to subscribe to YouTube and also go to Spotify, Historiando PR, and subscribe to our Spotify channel. Our main channel is the Spotify channel, where we upload our podcasts, which are basically interviews and conversations that I have with historical actors or with historians in general. So we're going to be reacting today to This Day in History. I found this podcast recently, and they're talking about the Spanish-American War, since we are in August. And August is the month to remember the Spanish-American War, which should be the Spanish-Cuban Philippine-American War. So that should be the correct name of that conflict. So we're going to be reacting to This Day in History, talking about the Spanish-American War. Let's go. Let's check them out.
Right after that, we're like, okay, that's it. You have to give up Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
And Spain is like, fuck you. We will not do that. And this was a bad decision, but what else are they going to do? So we go, okay, no problem. And we blockade the whole island. And so Spain takes that as an act of war. Spain declares war on us.
Yeah.
And then we go, fuck you. We declare war on you. It's August 11th, 2023. Okay. So a couple of things. If you listen to the show and you're not looking at the video, you can find the video on YouTube.
Okay.
Go to YouTube to search for This Day in History.
We're handsome fellas.
Yeah, we look even better in person.
By the way, I'm just saying,
September
he's copying
14th,
my style, not...
Dean Stanfield, to my right, and I will be in Fort Worth at Hyenas Comedy. And the 15th will be somewhere in Tulsa. You guess where. We don't know yet. And then on the 16th, we'll be in Joplin, Missouri. You can find all the details at Dave J Comic on Instagram.
So now
Follow me there. Follow Dean at
Dean A. Stanfield on Instagram, and then it'll be on my
Go to
link tree.
their...
Yeah, Linktree. We're doing it. We're doing it all.
We're out there hitting the road. Road dogs.
We're road dog.
We've road dogged it a few times now.
And we will again.
And we will again.
But today is August 11th, so we're celebrating, or not really celebrating. It's kind of tragic. We're remembering the...
is this 9/11? Or is it 9/11?
Oh, God. No, it's August 11th.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Dude, is it 9/11?
Like,
in
cool
the
to be
name.
with you.
9/11's in the date's in the name.
I know, but we didn't. You said August, and then so,
Yeah, so
okay, so this is frustrating. I don't know who these... Like I said, I just recently found this podcast. I'm stopping it because I need to stop and comment. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a reaction video. I apparently, this is more of like the comedic sense, and maybe they're comedians. I mean, I'm all for stand-up comedy, but history. I mean, yeah, I guess there are some. There could be taken some comedy. Um, they just confuse me honestly, and especially this guy on the left. This guy up here. He's just like, I don't know. He's just there. Let's go on, cause I like I said I usually watch them beforehand. I just watched a few minutes and I said nope. I want to react to this. Uh, but yeah, no. Let's continue.
I said a different month, and you thought it was September.
I don't know.
This is the
I mean, who
anniversary
confuses
of
August
when
with September,
the Americans took control of Puerto Rico.
Really?
not just Puerto Rico.
So
Guam,
that it comes at the end of the
Philippines,
Spanish-American War.
Cuba.
So we're going to talk about the Spanish-American War.
Fancy.
So I want to talk. There's a lot of pieces of Puerto Rican history that I want to cover because
I know none.
all of it is tragic.
Okay.
So
I mean,
the Spanish-American
not all
War
of
is
it
kind
is
of
tragic.
prologue to modern Puerto Rican history, and it's mostly about Cuba. So we're going to talk about that.
How far is Cuba from Puerto Rico?
It's Cuba is the big island, and then you have Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and on the other side of that is Puerto Rico.
I thought
So
Haiti.
it's like a line of islands.
Okay.
Cuba's the closest to us.
I thought Haiti was in Africa.
I think it feels that way when you're there. Probably.
Oh God!
It's Haiti and Dominican Republic are one island. Hispaniola.
What is it with this? Is he supposed to be like, I don't know, this redneck? Like, I'm hoping that this guy is just on character because, to be honest, that thing of I thought Haiti was in Africa. What? I mean, are you just being like this regular, normal, white, ignorant dude? Oh, goodness gracious! I'm trying to keep this family friendly, but I really don't know how much I can take from this.
Cut in half. I think one half was the French, the other half was the Spanish. That's why.
To be honest, Hispaniola was all Spanish. The Spanish ceded it to France in a war. I forgot the name of the war, but they ceded it to France in the war. But to be honest, before the war, France, corsairs and pirates would use the eastern part of Hispaniola as a base to resupply and all this, and Spain just decided to take out all the colonists from the eastern part of Hispaniola so that they could be better protected, and that is how France starts taking control of the eastern part of Haiti. Yes, it was divided in a French side and a Spanish side, but there are caveats and there's explanations to all of this.
Must have been a wild place to be.
Yeah, I think it's still
200
wild.
I mean, yeah. But 200
still
years
wild.
ago, people just showing up and dropping people off and
Yeah, cutting fingers off, collecting gold.
collecting gold.
So-
Time to be alive.
There was no Haiti had nothing about gold. Haiti's richness came out of agricultural production, coffee and fruits and sugar, basically mainly sugar cane. The gold is more Central America, South America.
In
This is frustrating.
this would have been, I guess, as soon as Columbus showed up, the Spanish just start taking over the Caribbean.
Yes.
Okay.
They landed in Puerto Rico.
First people there?
The first Europeans.
Was there indigenous people?
Yeah,
Okay.
there was a lot of Native Americans. I'm part Native American. I'm like
Would that be
4%
considered
Taino.
native?
Oh God, no, you're not. You're not a Native American. Just because you have 4% Ejeri blood, it's not even Taino, man. Get your facts straight. Ejeri blood, that does not make you Native American. That blood doesn't correspond to culture. You're claiming a culture that is dead. Okay? So if you want to be fully Ejeri, if you want to be claim Ejeri heritage, that's fine. But don't say you're part 4% Ejeri and you're Native American, because that's not it. It's that's like this senator from Massachusetts saying that she is Cherokee and she's Native American because she has Cherokee blood. No, she's not. Okay, she has exactly the same amount of you, and she's not considered Native American, not even by the Native American tribes. So don't, no, stop. Really, don't go there, because again, culture is something that is learned. It's not in your DNA. If you were born in the United States and you're taken to China from a very, very young age, and you're basically you grow up in China, you will consider yourself to be Chinese, even though you don't have Chinese genetical factions. Same as if you were born in Japan and you're taken to Vietnam. Okay, so again, DNA does not make culture. Culture is something that you learn from your parents. You are, I'm guessing, Puerto Rican, and that therefore you learn from your parents.
Americans? Was it?
Those
was
are the
that in
Americas.
the Americas? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like Columbus never set foot in America. He set foot on mainland, but
Yes, he did. Central America is part of North America. Just saying. He did in his third and fourth voyages, okay? And newsflash, the Caribbean is part of America. But if you're speaking to the United States of America, then no, he did not. But when you say that word America, you're referring to the entire two continents that are in what is considered to be the New World by the Europeans. It's either North America, South America. So Caribbean is part of America.
but he did go to the Caribbean. Like he's been to Puerto Rico. He went there, threw some paper towels. You know what I mean? Did whatever.
No, he did not. That was Trump.
So the Spanish have colonized Cuba and Puerto Rico from the moment that basically they got to the Americas until the late 1800s. So in the late 1800s, you know, post Civil War, America is like a thing. You know, we're
It's an
doing it.
idea.
We're doing it. We're expanding. Blah blah blah. Yada yada. But the Spanish are kind of waning. They're not doing as good. Their empire is kind of like starting to dwindle.
I mean, they've got all of South America and a lot.
No,
of-
at this point, I think it's like the late 1800s. It's like the Philippines, Guam,
they just lost Texas.
Puerto Rico. They just
They
lost
lost a big
Texas.
Texas was never part. Texas became independent from Mexico. Okay? Mexico was independent from Spain in the early 1800s, not in the
This,
Took a big L.
to the Mexicans, and then the Mexicans couldn't hold on to it, and we took it. So
Won it in a fair fight.
their empire is getting smaller.
Yeah.
You know, our empire is getting bigger. We're expanding across the continent. So the Cubans and the Puerto Ricans, but during this time, the Cubans are like actively revolting against the Spanish. So like, we want to be our own thing, because Cuba is actually a pretty powerful like economic engine for.
So you're Cuban. Like I'm seriously trying to figure out your point of view. Where are you coming from, Dave? Because honestly, I am I literally live in the Caribbean, and I just want to know, like, where are you coming from? you just said we are, we are. So I'm guessing that you're Cuban. You're from Miami, Cuban American. Is that who you are? Just hopefully I can garner more information from the video.
For Spanish,
Okay.
for the Spanish, they're owned by the Spanish, but the relationship with the United States is like really tight. Like at the end of the 1800s, 90% of all the imports to Cuba come from the United States, and 40% of 90% of the exports from Cuba come to the United States,
Okay.
and like 40% of the shit that they need on the island comes from us.
Damn.
So like we are very tight with them. Also, Cuba is in the perfect spot for
like
a
as
naval
it's exiting
base. Yeah, to protect the Gulf, and also it's a jumping off point to Panama, and where they've already been attempting to create the Panama Canal.
But the Panama Canal, first of all, the United States wasn't interested in the Panama Canal at first. That was the French. The French were trying to build the Panama Canal in the 1800s. They stopped doing it because of dengue and mosquitoes. And by this time, it's not even Panama. It's called Colombia because Panama was a part of Colombia. You're spouting basically Mayhen's geopolitical views, which in turn also come from the way or the pressures by J.P. Morgan and John D. Rockefeller's camps or groups to look for new markets and control those markets, monopolistically speaking, in Latin America and the Asian area, Asian Pacific region. So, just adding to what you're saying, or trying to explain it in a better context, so that we can all learn from this topic, because this topic is really important for Cuba. It's also important for Puerto Rico, for Guam, for the Philippines.
Now, but failing.
Yeah.
So
And sugar is the main production that's going on.
So they do a lot of sugar. Now, here's the other thing: is that the Cuba.
Because I'm thinking, what do they have to provide to the Americas besides sugar?
It's mostly sugar, pineapple,
And then we're giving them everything:
tobacco,
else. Gunpowder. Oh, tobacco. Tobacco's a big
shit
one.
like that. Puerto Rico is basically all sugar. And I'll do another episode on Puerto Rico.
No. By this time, Puerto Rico is not all sugar. By this time, it is happening a transition, but by the late 1800s, we're talking about a coffee plantation economy. That coffee plantation economy is destroyed by hurricanes, and then after the American invasion, it is when sugar is massively prioritized by the American administration. Before the American administration, it wasn't sugar wasn't as important. Coffee was, but at the same time, Puerto Rico was having trouble at the coffee market in the international or the global coffee markets because of Brazil, that had started exporting coffee, and Puerto Rico could not compete in those markets with Brazil. So late 1800s is a very big transitional stage in Puerto Rican agriculture. And you can also see this in the novels that are painted in this time. You got La Resaca, which is written by Laguerre, and that one is coffee plantation focused. And then you got La Llamarada, which is after the U.S. invasion. There you can see a lot of the sugar plantations. And also you got La Charca, which if I am not mistaken, is mainly coffee plantation centric. I would need to go back and read La Charga to be 100% sure. If I am mistaken on that, please leave it in the comments. But either way, there is a transition happening. But right now, by 1898, coffee is still the main product being produced in Puerto Rico. It's not sugar. There is sugar, but it is not the main focus of the economy. It's not monoculture. It's not the American monoculture that will happen in the 20th century after the invasion.
After the United States takes over, because I mean, it was like they got rid of the Spanish, and then it was like here's another colonizer to deal with, and it's still that way today.
Yeah.
By the way, they didn't get rid of the Spanish. The Spanish stayed. It's like the United States won the war. Yeah, the government changed, the sovereignty changed. Government officials might have left, but the Spanish stayed. Like the planter class stayed, and they were protected by the Americans in the Treaty of Paris. So the Spanish per se, the wealthy Spanish planter class stayed in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So it's
One of my
sucks.
old foremans was Puerto Rican. He grew up there, and he came and played for the Texas Rangers.
Love baseball.
Yeah, and Jose Reyes, and dude, he is just like, he's got more charisma. It's like, Uncle Laser. He's an Instagram guy.
Is he? Is he? I don't know.
He's around town. You can find him some places.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can, he's got a lot. He's a guy with a lot of charisma.
A lot of riz.
A lot of riz, as the kids are saying nowadays.
Kids.
What does this have to do with the Spanish-American War? I mean, is this like a rabbit trail? I can understand rabbit trails, guys. Like, let's go on.
I just learned that riz is from the riz and charisma.
I did not know that. I was flirting with that bachelorette party last night, and they came to the show.
Yep.
And then afterwards, I was just like flirting with them, and Alison Voidovich sent a video of me flirting, and she was like, "The Riz," and I was like, sometimes I act like, yeah, I know what that means.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So yeah, Puerto Rico is very suavemente.
yeah, dude. He is when I think Puerto Ricans, I think him.
Yeah. Think me.
He's got the most.
Hey, think me.
No. You don't have the. He had like
Okay,
the
so wait. So you're Puerto Rican then? Okay, that's fine, Dave. Like, I just want to be able to know where you're coming from. You're obviously Afro-Caribbean. Just, like I said, I got no problem with it. I just want to know, where are you coming from? What's your historiographical point? Where do you are understanding this? What's your theory, your historical theory, your historical formation in that sense?
Anytime we had to talk to somebody,
Gold chain.
no, yeah. And he was a pitcher. He was a pitcher for the Texas Rangers, and then he just started building power lines.
Smelled good all the time.
He had like 6 different baby mamas.
Yeah.
He's the coolest guy.
Mira. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
cool Puerto Rico. So
Just saying that doesn't make you Puerto Rican just because you have a lot of baby mamas. That could be a black dude from Philadelphia too. Or a white dude from redneck country back in Tennessee. I mean, you're obviously don't have any clue what Puerto Rican is. Just
I know
Cubans are-
you and him.
Cubans are similar.
Well,
Cubans are.
yeah.
y'all don't know what really Puerto Ricans are. Like, I am guessing that Dave was born and raised in Florida. You really need to come to Puerto Rico and see that there's very different social classes, social strata, very different flavors of being Puerto Rican. We do share cultural aspects, but we do have differences, you know, depending on what region you come from, depending on your family's socioeconomic development, to use that word. You will see different views in different ways and different people that act in different ways that are similar to others around the entire world. Because mankind continually likes to repeat or rhyme. History doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme.
Similarly, but
better food.
This is, you think Cuban food's better?
Yeah. Then I don't even know what Puerto Rican food is.
Then what the heck are you commenting on, man? Typical white dude, ignorant white dude. I do hope, for his own sake, that that this is a character and not himself.
I'm gonna let that one lie because
And what is Puerto Rican food? Y'all got like rice and
it's almost the same thing.
they play the hits, but that's not gonna get you any flair. But the Cubans,
It's almost the same thing.
Dude, there's... Loco, de verdad que sí, hay una diferencia bien marcada. Y lo digo en español, joder, porque es que no puedo. O sea, la manera en que se cocina en Puerto Rico es muy diferente a la manera en que están los cubanos cocinando, chicos. Vamos, brother. It's very different. Our cuisine is very different from Cubans. Okay?
Ices, they got the
No,
Cubanos.
Cubans get way more press.
Whatever they do with bananas is crazy.
We do that. Here's the
Yeah,
thing.
but you don't do it.
Here's
Y'all
the
probably
thing.
put like salt or something on it.
No,
That's just,
fuck
like,
you.
Easy.
This is what pisses me off is that when I was a kid, Dominicans,
Yeah.
it was an insult, like a racial slur, to call a Dominican a plátano. With like a fried sweet banana.
Yeah.
That was an insult. But now they use it. They're like, oh, plátano power. And then my mom was like,
Plátano power. There's no.
They don't use plátano power. They use mango power. That's what... I mean, mango is a type of plátano. So ya te lo voy a dejar pasar, brother. No, tampoco quiero que creas que te estoy criticando todo. No, ese no es el issue. Ese no es el punto de esto. But I'm sorry. It's just my emotions are just running, and it's not even because of Dave. It's because of his friend. I don't know. He rubs me the wrong way, and it's just...
No way
and then
they're using that.
It's like a baseball thing. There was a baseball player a couple years ago who was like plátano power.
But
But then like
seriously, can we just go on with the, with the history topic, because
Puerto Ricans and Dominicans don't get along.
Okay.
And like
Why?
Historically, because Puerto Ricans are citizens of the United States, and
Are they?
They
Oh,
are,
yeah.
and Dominicans, well, technically, they don't, they get taxed, they go to war, but they don't have any representation in Congress.
It's crazy.
it's not technically, it's that we are citizens, Dave. Since 1917, I may add, we are citizens. We are taxed. We do go to war. We just can't vote for president not because of our citizenship. It's because of the territory of Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, the island, the land where we are, is a territory, and therefore we are not a state. Because we're not a state, we can't vote for president or for representatives or Senate. So there. If any of us Puerto Ricans move to any of your state, any of the 50 states, we can vote. I can literally move. I don't know, 2024. I can move to Florida. I can register to vote, and I can vote for whomever I want because I am a citizen. It's not that we are citizens, okay?
But
Still, to
this day. But historically, Dominicans and Puerto Ricans don't get along. And I'm like, we eat the same food. Like,
We don't.
A Puerto Rican would call a Dominican a plátano like we don't eat plátanos too.
Yeah.
Cubans have some different stuff.
It's just
By the way, the reason why the Dominicans find that insulting has nothing to do with it being plátano. Is that the Dominicans? Okay, to explain this, you have to go and understand the relationship between the Dominican Republic with Haiti. So the Dominican Republic became independent not from Spain, but from Haiti. The first time that they were a republic. Okay, so they fought a war against Haiti, and Haitians tried to do what they did to all of the white people in Haiti in the Dominican Republic section. So many of the white landowners ended up in Puerto Rico. So the criollos from the Dominican Republic, they fought a war of independence against the Haitians. And the criollos, you know, the Dominicans, the ones that we call Dominicans today, they, and I'm trying not to say that it's in a generalized sense, but in their historical way of remembering things, they feel themselves to be superior to the Haitians. So they discriminate against the Haitians. And what are the Haitians? They're black people. And what is the most common slur used against against black people? That they're monkeys. So to tell a Dominican that they are a plátano is basically calling them black or African. And they make a distinction from that blackness. Now, is that correct? Should that happen? No, that's racist. But that is the way that it's seen, okay? So you have racism everywhere in the world. You have racism in the Caribbean against other Caribbean nations. In Puerto Rico, we are a bit racist. Well, no, we have racist attitudes towards Haitians, towards Dominicans, towards white Americans. Go figure. So, do I have those? No, because I like people for their content, for who they are. Right now, I'm not liking your friend Dave because he rubs me the wrong way. Not because he's white, but because he's being an idiot. Not to call him something else. He's acting like an idiot. So, is he an idiot? I don't know. I don't know him personally. So, I can only judge him based on what I am seeing. Maybe if I see more of this Dave in History podcast and I understand that maybe this is a character, I may understand and not have him rub me the wrong way. So I am trying to stay as neutral as possible in regards to him. But that happens, okay? The reason why Dominicans don't like to be called plátanos is because of that. Because of racism.
The
We gotta
violence that's inherent in the system.
It's true. That's true.
I'm telling you.
So Cubans are like revolting against the Spanish.
Okay.
Yay, back to
And
this.
Everybody is.
To the war.
Yes,
And
but
most people are winning.
But we are, the United States, we're looking at the Cubans because a lot of Cubans come here to the United States and they're like, mira, help us. And we look at the Spanish like they're just like us. They're trying to get their freedom.
Yeah.
The papers are like publishing some of these, some fake, some true stories about the Spanish being just like brutal to the Cubans, which they were.
No.
And so there starts to become a lot of kind of support.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm gonna correct you here. And if you want, I'm even gonna cite you the book. You may want to read El Jefe. It's a book. It's called El Jefe. It was published by Dr. Nieve de Los Angeles. She's a historian at the UPR Bayamón. She wrote this book, and she starts uncovering that, at least from the American side, you got the big interests like J.P. Morgan, like John D. Rockefeller, like Carnegie and all these other masters of industry in the Gilded Age that are pushing to gain more markets to export. So, by the way, Teddy Roosevelt is part of these groups. Teddy Roosevelt at this moment is he is the sub secretary of the Navy, and he is laying groundwork for an invasion. He is pushing for an invasion of Cuba so that the United States has these markets. And the reason why Cuba, Puerto Rico, aside from their strategic interests, is because Spain is declining and it is easy. It's not like if they would go to war against, I don't know, France or England or I'm sorry, Great Britain. It's because of that, you know. It's because it's an easy. It's a Theodore Roosevelt said that it was a splendid little war. Why? Because yes, they won the war. They very few casualties on the American side. They basically imposed their will on Spain, and they took Cuba, and they took Puerto Rico, and they took Guam, and they took the Philippines. So you have all of that, and there are reasons why, and there's documentation that proves that the big interests, the multinational interests, were in fact interested in this war happening to acquire these new markets.
For the Cubans, from like a moral standpoint, also like where our politicians are like, it would also be nice to have. It's a good naval base. We need control. They're so close to us. We should have control over what their economy and government is like, you know, all that shit. So we go to Spain and we're like, you guys, you got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like you and Cuba, it's not good. And Spain is like, fuck you, we'll do what we want. It's none of your business, right?
Well, they're
That's not correct. Spain was, and you look at the cables, at the diplomatic cables between the American government and the Spanish government. They are trying to appease the Americans because they understand that they cannot win a war against the United States. One of the ways that they want to appease the Americans is by granting self-government to Cuba and to Puerto Rico. And it's not even self-government. It's a type of autonomy. It's more along the lines of what Scotland and Wales have. You know, they have devolved parliaments where they can take care of local issues, but the sovereignty of Scotland and Wales is still resides on the United Kingdom. The same thing that's more along the lines of what Spain had in terms of their vision of what the autonomy is. So it wasn't independence of any sort. Sovereignty would still reside in Madrid, but there would be a local government, civilian administration that would respond directly to Madrid in that way. But again, that's not what the U.S. government wanted. That's not what McKinley's government wanted, because McKinley's government responds directly to J.P. Morgan and John D. Rockefeller.
They're on the backslide. What happens when you corner somebody? They start getting real fucking.
And this was bad for Spain because they kind of.
You say we're talking about the Spanish-American War now?
This is the Spanish-American War.
Okay.
So it starts to kind of like fall apart for them, and they shouldn't have fought this war. So, anyways, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Yes, but they weren't fighting a war against the Americans. They were fighting a guerrilla war by Cuban insurgents. It was this had for the last 10 years, Cubans had been fighting for their independence. So Spain was fighting already a war in Cuba. It's just that the United States is looking at this, and they want to use it as an excuse to further gain their economical interests.
So they go, all right, wait, leave us alone. It's between us and the Cubans.
Okay.
But the Cubans are egging on the Americans because they think the Americans are the key to their independence.
Okay. From Spain.
From Spain.
Okay.
Yes. But again, the real reasons are behind are the economical interests, because had there not been any economical interests, the U.S. might not have cared. They wouldn't have invaded, or they wouldn't have intervened.
And in Congress, they even passed a resolution where they're like, any conflict with Spain, we promise we will not take Cuba as a colony. That's not our intention.
Okay.
But it's complicated.
Yeah.
So we send.
And they also add that to the Treaty of Paris later on. In the Treaty of Paris, they tell Spain, we will not take Cuba as a colony. It does become a protectorate for a few years, and I think it's in 1906 that they are granted independence, but in their constitution they had to put the Platt Amendment, which would grant the United States the authority to intervene in Cuban affairs if they challenged, or they would put American interests in jeopardy, which is would come later on to be a point of contention between the Castro administration and the Kennedy administration.
And hold on, what's the name of the ship? The
Maine.
USS Maine, which is like a naval ship.
Probably wooden.
It might have been steel at this point. It might have been one of the first steel ones.
What year?
It was steel. There were no wooden ships by this time. Okay. It was actually a steamship, to be quite frank, and just for I'm going to leave in Patreon, if you want to see it, pictures of the Maine and ships from this era. If any of you are interested in that, and just go to patreon.com/historiando. It's gonna be link in the description for any of you interested in pictures and anything regarding pictures from the Spanish-American War. You can go to my Patreon and you can see them.
1898.
Okay.
If it was steel, it was early steel.
Yeah.
Right. So we send one to
Titanic.
Havana Harbor.
Yeah.
Right. And we're like, just checking it out. That ship explodes
What?
in the harbor in Havana.
Okay.
And that ship explodes because of something happened in the engine, and it is thought that it was an accident. But it was a great excuse. The ship is sent to hoping that the Spanish would attack it. So when it explodes, it's thought that, the Spanish attacked the ship with a mine. But in reality, it was more of a something. It was an accident that occurs. So it was an accidental explosion. The main was not supposed to explode that way, but it just happened. It wasn't something that was done on purpose. But either way, anything would have been. But by this time, when the main explodes, any provocation by Spain would have been taken as an act of war, anyways. So if it wasn't the main, the U.S. government would have used any excuse whatsoever to declare war against Spain.
And there's been a
Full
lot.
of U.S. This is the USS Maine.
This is a United States Navy vessel.
Oh. Hey, this sounds like an early. That's very similar to Vietnam.
Exactly. 75% of the sailors die. And this is in February of 1898.
Okay.
And so everyone is like, obviously the Spanish did this. I think they did ultimately, like, they've been investigating it for 100 years. Found out that the explosion came from inside.
Well, I mean, that's easily. I mean, those things are full of gunpowder. I'm sure that shit happens all the time.
They're like, they don't know if it was sabotage, if it was like the U.S. did it to themselves.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't sabotage, and it wasn't it wasn't self. The conclusion is that it was an accident. That's the main conclusion, or the main theory is that it was an accident. But again, the fever pitch in the press that was being driven by Morgan and Rockefeller and all these special economic interests would have used any excuse to push the United States to go to war with Spain.
So they could justify the war.
The boat's got a couple holes in the bottom of it. Hey,
Could have been a torpedo, a sea mine.
No, it wasn't a
They
mine.
had torpedoes back then.
Did they?
Yeah,
Yes,
they're
there were
not.
torpedoes.
They're
This
different.
is pre-World War One.
Yes.
I think
they-
World War
they
One
had
is
that
when
shit.
they learned
They
all
had
that
torpedoes.
Dude, literally the U.S. Civil War is a prelude to the First World War. The tactics used in the Civil War are going to be used by the British and the French and the Germans and the Russians in the First World War. This is the First World War isn't even 50 years out from the U.S. Civil War. In the U.S. Civil War, you have machine guns being used. Early machine guns, Gatling guns, but they were machine guns.
In like
What was the Titanic?
In mines, like water mines in like the Civil War.
Yes.
No.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I guess
Yes.
The first
yes.
torpedo was 1866.
Damn.
Yes.
Yeah, bro.
That's crazy.
They got pedos.
That's a different thing.
Oh, it is an island.
Shout out Spencer Cabins.
Shout out to Spencer Cabin. Speaking of pedos. All right,
Tell me about it. It's
so
Spanish American War.
that's February,
Okay.
and then
February.
in Congress they're like
A coup de grace.
We gotta do something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We gotta fuck them up.
Yeah.
And so we go to to Spain and like,
Wait, you go to Spain?
no, we tell them,
Okay.
and right after that we're like, okay, that's it. You have to give up Cuba.
Mhm.
And Spain is like, fuck you. We will not do that. And this was a bad decision. But what else are they going to do? We're going to go, they told us, we just did it because they told us to. That looks bad too. So we go, okay, no problem. And we blockade the whole island. And so Spain takes that as an act of war. Spain declares war on us. So we got them to declare war on us.
Yeah.
And then we go, fuck you. We declare war on you.
Like, I'm not sure. Let me. I'm gonna check out because I'm not 100% sure that's the way it was. It might be. So I'm gonna check it out from the Britannica. I'm gonna leave this link in the description. So February 15, 1898, U.S. Maine explodes. March 27, 1898, communications with Spain. President McKinley insists that Spain give up Cuba. So Spain refuses to concede Cuban independence. So Dave is right there. April 24, 1898, Spain declares war on the United States. So he's correct in that. And then the United States declares war on Spain, April 25. So the next day, the U.S. declares war. So, hey, Dave, you just taught me something. I had always thought it was in the other way, that it was the United States who declared war first, when Spain did not accede to the ultimatum. So I just learned something from this. So thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
But
We're
the
just
war,
accepting terms at that
the
point.
war is not just in the Caribbean.
We
have at this point, the American Navy is not, what it is today, but it's pretty
I
sizable.
mean, it's post-Civil War.
Yeah, so
you got both.
we send people to.
Yeah, but the United States, like this person says, it's post-Civil War. The United States has an Atlantic fleet and then a Pacific fleet, and this is part of the reasoning of why they needed the at least in Mahan's book on the history of sea power, which is written by Mahan. You will see that he mentions the need for a canal somewhere in Central America. There is no Panama Canal at this point, and it's because to be able to send American naval fleet faster to the Pacific in case of any war, or naval ships from the Pacific theater to the Atlantic theater.
Hey, hell of a way to bring the troops
Asia.
back together. Get them on
Seriously,
a boat in the Caribbean. Give
a
them
lot of
little
people,
cruise.
a lot of people in the U.S.
Go down there, mess up some Spaniards, get together again, boys. Let's find this.
100%. Like people say now, what we all need is a bunch of aliens to come down so we can all get together and fight them. This was like a good kind of like quick win for us as a country after the Civil War to be like, because a lot of Confederate veterans
Bonding
helped
exercise.
doing this. We sent a bunch of ships to the Philippines and Guam.
Do you think that's how they did it, or do you think they put like they were like the Remember the Titans?
I think the Philippines came first, not Guam. So May 1st, George Dewey leads a U.S. attack on Spain's Pacific Fleet off the coast of Manila, the capital of the Philippines. The Battle of Manila Bay is a decisive victory for the United States. July 1st to the 3rd, 1898, the Battle of Santiago in Cuba. U.S. forces complete their assault on San Juan Ridge by capturing its highest point, San Juan Hill, in an effort to escape. Capture Armero Pascual, Cervera y Topete leads the Spanish squadron out of Santiago Harbor. All the Spanish ships come under heavy fire from the U.S. fleet and are destroyed. So it wasn't Guam, Dave. It was, you're talking about the Battle of Manila. Yeah, of Manila Bay. And Manila Bay is in the Philippines. So Guam is just given by this. It's basically given to the United States in the Treaty of Paris, but it was not invaded directly by the Americans during the beginning of the war.
Where they came on, they were like, all right, Union soldier, Confederate soldier.
Yeah.
Y'all got to work together.
They did. I can't remember who they had, but they definitely had some Confederate dudes helping out, like former Confederate soldiers.
I'm sure they did. There's tons of guys that, that's the sad part of war is they go off, they kill each other.
Yeah.
And then they're all messed up.
Yeah.
Let's just throw them on a, boat, take them down to the Caribbean.
Well, they start the like land army is not that big in the United States at this point, so they just ask for recruits and they get like hundreds of thousands of people going like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt, who would later become the president, was huge. He was like, I can't fucking wait to get down there.
My favorite president.
He was so ready to go down there, and he even said he was like, yeah, we want to help the Cubans, but also like we want Cuba. And he's the one that goes on to complete the Panama Canal.
Yes. Dude, it's such.
Yes, and like I already said, Teddy Roosevelt had been working behind the scenes to lay the groundworks for the invasion. And he participates with the Rough Riders, which is a volunteer group that goes down and fights in Cuba in, I think, the Battle of San Juan Hill, actually.
Bunch of good. When I come back on, I want to do my next one. I want to do.
You know,
Teddy.
Rough Riders.
Yes, dude.
This is where this is from.
Yeah.
He goes to Cuba with a bunch of dudes on horses, and we're like, "Hey, let's fuck him up."
Cowboying up.
He couldn't wait to get down there.
Yeah, they were excited.
So everyone's like, "All right, let's go." We go. Well, we're gonna go tie him up in Asia so they don't come fuck us up. We go to Guam, which they own, which is like on the way to the Philippines in the Pacific, and there's nobody there. There's like a bunch of Spanish, but they have no
Don't call them
artillery.
nobodies, buddy. They're
A bunch of fucking losers there.
no, dude. There's people there. Yeah.
I don't know why it's funny to talk about people that are, that are gonna be killed, or that were killed in a war. But I guess it is.
Yeah.
But there's like the Spanish army there. They didn't know that they were at war, and they also didn't have any
that's
ammo.
gotta suck to just have somebody come around the bend and you're just like, hey, what's up? Y'all want to trade? Or, bah, bah.
Well, they come around the corner. The U.S. Navy like shoots off a shell, and they think that they're like saluting them. And they land, and they go, "Oh, we're sorry, we didn't fire back. We don't have anything." And they go, "Oh, well, you're POWs now." And they left one. There was one American on the island, and they left him there. And he's like, "I'll look after things until you
Just
guys
one
come
guy.
back." Yeah, there was no fighting on Guam. They're like, "Yeah, you can have it." And that one guy was like, "When I'll hold down the fort till you boys get back."
That story, I don't know. I had never heard of this story, and to be quite frank, there was no battle in Guam. They first go to Manila. There was a battle there. Well, I mean, there was a fake battle in Manila, but there was a battle in Manila. You know what, Dave? I'm gonna take you off up on that for now. But I am not sure. Up to my knowledge, but of course, I think one of the sad parts is that in Puerto Rican history, we don't talk a lot about Guam. We don't study enough about Guam. We do study about the Philippines and Cuba, but it's very little that we do talk about Guam. And I'm just figuring this out, that we should really do a deeper dive into what happened in Guam during the Spanish-American War, because at least in Puerto Rico we had battles, but like I as a historian didn't know this story, and that for me that's kind of sad, because Guam is part of the, we always are talking when we talk about the Treaty of Paris, in at least in Puerto Rican historiographical sense, we talk about, Puerto Rico and Guam fueron los botines de guerras, fueron los botines de guerra. Eso fue un botín de guerra for the United States, and $20 million was $20 million was the price tag for Puerto Rico and Guam.
They just show up and they're like, just got drinking a coconut. Like, wow, whatever, dude, come party. Yeah, let's have a good time.
So we go over to the Philippines, but the stuff happens over there. But this is about the Caribbean.
This is the Spanish-American War.
The Spanish-American War
in Guam.
Yeah, dude, all over the world.
Wow.
So we go down there, we're fucking them up. We shell Puerto Rico too, just as a part of like, hey, we'll fuck you guys up.
Well, technically, the shelling of San Juan occurs because what's the name of this dude again? Dewey, because Commodore George Dewey was looking for the Spanish fleet, and they thought that the fleet was in San Juan when it was in Santiago.
The war's pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's like, I think there's like 10 weeks of fighting.
Okay.
It was like we pretty much...
Sounds like just a 10-week cruise.
It pretty much was. Let's see. Yeah, so the Spanish fleets that were in the Caribbean basically were destroyed.
Okay.
We went over there, we went... And the Spanish were like, Dios mío. You know what I mean? Or whatever they say.
Yeah.
That starts in April. In August, it's over. They're like, yeah, you guys win.
And we just come off of a pretty good fight camp.
Yeah.
Working with each other.
Yeah, it was good. It was like, as far as like bringing our country together, it was good.
Yeah.
Bad for Spain. And ultimately,
It's not only bad for Spain, it's called years later, there's a generation of writers that's going to be called La Generación del 98. And the reason why they're called La Generación del 98, aside from being having experienced it or being born in those years, is that most of their writing, most of their literature goes back to, is trying to understand what happened in 1898. It's kind of like this expression of they're trying to go through the process of grief. So because they lost their empires, they lost their empire. They're no longer an empire, or at least they're no longer an American empire or a world-spanning empire. They still have Melilla, they still have Moroccan, they have the northern Morocco, and they still have the Canary Islands and the Balearic Islands, but that's it. The remnants of the global empire that was Spain, that's it. They lose it all, or what was left of it, in 1898 in the Spanish-American War. So this group of writers in Spain is gonna write poetry. It's gonna write different types of literature as a way of understanding and coping, and in a way to grieve the loss of the American empire. And one of them is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, it's Miguel de Unamuno, who's going to be one of the main writers of the Generation 98.
really bad for Cuba.
Yeah, but they're on the way out.
Who?
Spain was.
Oh, yeah. But fuck them.
Fuck them.
The fuck out of here.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy how big the Spanish conquest was. Dwindled down to absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, where they're at
Did the
now.
French too? The French were just like, yeah, just take it. Just take it. They just left.
Just burn
That's
themselves
funny.
out.
Like, if we didn't win,
That's where we're going.
if we didn't win the American Revolution,
Yeah.
and become our own country that was based here, would England eventually have given up on this continent? Just like the French did, just like the
You do realize that Great Britain didn't give up on this continent. Canada was a dominion of Great Britain up until post Second World War. Bermuda is still a overseas territory of Great Britain or the United Kingdom now. Anguilla is still an overseas territory of the United Kingdom. Again, this view is I do not agree with with what you're spouting right now. There's some things that I do agree with in this moment right here. This is not correct history.
Been
just
so
like the
much.
Spanish did.
No, I think they gave up because of America.
No, but that's what I mean. If we did it,
They didn't give up because of America. Heck, after, I would say that losing the 13 colonies, losing the American War of Independence, actually made Great Britain even more of an imperial power, because they go on to then focus on India. They go on to focus on other on Africa, on the African continent, on trade with China and Hong Kong and all these other places that actually made even Australia. I'm sorry, I forgot Australia. So after the I'm sorry, my dog's here. So after the the American War of Independence, that's when we start understanding or seeing Great Britain or the United Kingdom as the empire where the sun never sets. And by the way, we're also forgetting British Honduras, which is today Belize. So, and the Mosquito Coast, and in Nicaragua, which it was in Nicaragua or Honduras. Honduras. So you have British presence in the Caribbean, in Central America, way until the early half of the 20th century.
Didn't separate from England,
Yeah.
and didn't have the problems that the English have.
Yeah.
Because that's the reason why, like, the French and the Spanish end up not continuing their empires here, is because they're like, it's fucking hard at home. We need.
No, the reason why Napoleon gives up on the French Empire is because they lost Haiti. Haiti was the biggest coffee producer in the early 1800s, in the late 1700s, early 1800s. Haiti is the economical engine of the entire Caribbean. And after France loses it, they decide to, let go of the French. They sell their French possessions to Jefferson, to the Jeffersonian government, to the United States under Jefferson. So again, no, it has nothing to do with the American Revolution. It has more to do with losing Haiti.
This is not worth it anymore. Like, we have shit. Like, Napoleon is like,
I think you'll
take
always
Louisiana.
find you'll always find like
The Louisiana Purchase.
This could
people
only
that
be an
need-
independent country. It couldn't be a colony of somewhere else, because they would give up.
yeah. Eventually, the people come over here and go, "Why are we paying these people to
Right.
live?
Yeah.
Fuck that." Yeah,
So we fuck
it
them
was
up.
destined to happen.
Let's see. We fuck them up. We signed a treaty in December of that year.
Yes.
Okay, December what?
December of 1898. I don't know the date. Treaty of Paris. So in the treaty, the United States gets the Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
Guam,
Oof.
Puerto Rico,
Puerto Rico.
and Cuba.
Mm.
I remember we told the
And we
Cubans,
pay $20
we're
million.
not going to colonize you. We promised them we wouldn't colonize them. So we take them as a possession, and by 1902, they're free. They're their
1902 or
own country.
1906?
But
That's pretty cool of us. It's pretty
But-
cool of us.
Could be
But
cool.
big but. What
Yeah.
we do is we go, all right, you're your own country, but
It's a lot of
you
butts.
you can't make any treaties with other countries. We're
Yeah,
gonna
they
help you
become a
decide
protectorate.
your form of government.
They become a protectorate, and by 1906, they have their constitution, the Platt Amendment, and by 1906, they have given out part of the constitution is the naval base in Cuba.
You can't do X, Y, and Z thing unless you tell us. You can't do any of this
Sounds
other
like-
shit.
Yeah.
So it's everything but being a colony.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning of Cuba being its own thing,
But
and
that might be us just doing our due diligence.
that was for us. That wasn't for them.
It's for them too. You don't want to. We don't want to come in and make a war torn country have to, leave it to whoever raises up.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
hey, let's
but
make
that's
sure
what
you
we
have a
did.
good. But it's like going through therapy.
But that's what we did. The English let us go.
That's true.
They go,
Well,
hey,
they
fucking.
didn't let us go, buddy. We had to shoot them a lot.
But
I'm sorry, but no, the Brits were forced to let the United States go, and the reason why France didn't do that, what you're particularly explaining, is because they got some concessions. They got some African concessions from the monarchy from the British monarchy. So
at the end, they were like, hey, figure it out. They
Yeah.
weren't like, well, you got to do it this way.
No,
And that's what we did to Cuba.
but it's because we kicked their asses
We kicked the Spanish asses.
and the British's asses.
Yeah. But we kicked the difference is we kicked Spain's ass.
Yeah.
And like Cuba was our little brother, and we're like, hey, we got you. And then like after we were done with Spain, we were like, okay, here's what you have to do. And they're like, I thought we were fucking free.
Yeah.
So that is the beginning. We'll do an episode on this, but like this is the period of time that will get us to like Fidel Castro, where
Yes.
the Cuban government is basically a puppet government of the United States to support the United States' economic interests.
And then they turn on
security.
us by turning into the dirty Ruskies.
But if you were them, we got an episode on this. If I was them, I would do it too. It was their revolution.
I mean, not necessarily. There was another path. There was the non-aligned movement that they could have taken, and it wasn't. I know we're jumping ahead to mid 20th century politics, but Castro being a communist government wasn't sure, because at the beginning Castro was anti-communist. Go figure. And he did receive aid from the U.S. So yeah, there's that. It wasn't a sure thing that Castro would be communist, and it wasn't the first time that that there had been a coup in Cuba. So, yeah. But I will be listening to the podcast whenever you guys bring it out, because I will be subscribing to This Day in History, and everybody listening to us, you should go over to This Day in History and subscribe to them, and because at least we can have these conversations online. Even though I may not like your friend Dave, you have you've made some good points. I do disagree with some other points, but hey, this is history. This is what history is all about. It's about having these conversations, and figuring out and understanding our past in a better way.
That was their revolution,
buddy.
The cheapest glasses on earth. Put them back on so everyone can see. Put them back on. Made in Russia.
Oh, this one fell
The dude looks like a pirate.
out. Okay. Yeah. Well, listen here, buddy.
Yeah, go ahead.
You would go to they're Skankfest. They're Skankfest glasses. That's hilarious.
Oh wow, that's your only credit. Now it's gone. It's on the floor.
I'll never recover. You would go to the route if you would turn. Look at how it turned out. It didn't turn out well for them.
Yes, but it's our fault.
Why is it our fault?
We push them.
They turn their backs on.
We push them into their arms. That's like if you're an abusive boyfriend, and then your girlfriend leaves you and goes to a guy who's like, you just don't like him, and you're like, how could you do that to me? We did that to them. We remember that
that's
today.
a personal decision that they made.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you make that decision? We were under their thumb.
Your own.
But again, it's not as black and white. Like I said, Castro wasn't communist at the beginning of when they started the Cuban Revolution. That's number one, and number two, there were different options. They could have joined they could have become a non-aligned nation, part of the non-aligned nation movement. Or just have gone through with their promise of democracy and everything that they had originally promised. You don't necessarily have to continue with the United States. I mean, that part I can understand. But it's not like the Soviets were better than the Americans. They were as imperial as the Americans are or were. So you're choosing one imperial power over the other.
They were under our thumb.
Yeah, but then they go, oh, hey, let me get out from underneath your thumb, and let's just let this guy put us under.
But you know why?
It's like, why don't you just be your own country?
You know why?
Yeah, I agree.
Because when they left us,
finally, I can agree with your friend. Like, finally, he makes. See, he's not as an idiot. He's not. He's a character. I can understand it now. He's playing dumb, but now he makes a great argument, and it's completely right. It's like you're choosing one empire over the other, and neither empire at heart is 100% good. And and to be honest, at least the United States haven't done genocide, and I'm being very careful with what I'm saying. They hadn't done genocide in at least the last 80 years, up to that point,
Us when they decided we don't want this United States puppet government anymore.
Okay.
Che
Guevara.
Che.
Yeah.
You see the hipsters around here wearing the shirts.
Yeah.
Him, Fidel Castro. They go. The United States goes, okay, you don't want to be with us? Great. We'll blockade the whole island. Mm-hmm. We're not doing business with you. And remember how much their industry depends on us. And anybody who's an ally with us will not do business with you. The only person that's willing to do business with you is people we don't like.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dave, but you're jumping the gun here. The blockade or el bloqueo económico de Cuba happens after the Cuban Missile Crisis. So again, it's not correct. The way that you're bringing this up, during the first years, there was no blockade. The blockade starts because Cuba decides to accept Soviet nuclear missiles in their territory, and after the Cuban Missile Crisis, that's when Congress declares the economical blockade.
And that's Russia. That's the only person they had. That's all because they wanted to be free.
Yeah.
And we told them, be free. Go ahead. Watch what happens to you. Try and be free. See what happens.
That's not exactly correct. Again, the United States, they wanted to. They didn't like it that Cuba had become communist. They tried to invade Cuba through the Bay of Pigs. I think it was a year before the Cuban Missile Crisis. That pushes Cuba and that pushes Castro into Soviet hands, by the way. And afterwards is that the blockade happens. I mean, the economical blockade, at least.
Yeah.
And the only person left,
and it didn't work out.
Well, of course it didn't work out. Yeah. But we made sure it didn't work out.
And what are the Russians going to bring them? Nothing.
Nuclear weapons.
And I'm sorry, but yeah, the blockade is pretty weak, to be honest, because Canadians go to Cuba as tourists. Europeans go to Cuba as tourists, and they make a lot of there is trade between Cuba and Venezuela, Nicaragua, Russia, China. Today, of course, we're talking currently. So, and a lot of European countries, if I'm not mistaken, trade with Cuba. So, and they have been trading with Cuba. Members of the non-aligned league also traded with Cuba. So, to be honest, the economical blockade really was just more of the United States saying our companies are not going to trade with you, and if any company wants to do business with us, then but any company in the world, not all companies in the world trade with the United States. So you have companies that do trade with Cuba that don't trade with the in the American economy. So
weapons for a little bit. They had, but it did.
Well,
They
good
got
luck.
they got
That can't
fucked
put-
over.
That can't feed your children. You know.
But that's
and it's not only, and it wasn't only weapons, Dave. It was also economical aid. Like Cuba, so the Soviet Union would send food. They would trade with Cuba in terms of food. They would also trade with Cuba with medicine and money, like hard currency was also sent as economic aid to Cuba.
true. But they got, because they only had one partner in Russia. Russia became increasingly weak.
And it wasn't just one partner. Do remember that during the Cold War, Europe was divided into fronts, and you had the Eastern European countries that responded to the Soviet Union, but were still independent, like East Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia. Austria was neutral. Again, the Yugoslavia wasn't part. They were not part of the Soviet bloc, but they were communists, and they did do a lot of trade with Cuba. So again, it's not 100% the way that you're looking at it from a very American-centric viewpoint, and not taking into consideration other countries' viewpoints in this matter. So you're only looking at it as the U.S. bad, Russia good type of views, and it's not like that. It's anybody wants to read up on the Cold War, I would suggest going to history. I think it's state.gov. In there you can read up all of the documents of the foreign history, or you can go search it. I think it's Department of State Foreign History, and you can see all of the documents and cables from all the presidents up. I think it's up until Carter, or the first term of, I forgot the name of the president right now, but it's he's the one that the last Republican president from California. Anyways, if you go to this website, and I'm gonna leave it in the link below, that you can see all these first-hand documents, you're gonna see that all of these other nations are trading with Cuba, with other communist nations, so and with several Arab nations. There is political and economical exchanges happening at this point. It's not, Cuba isn't isolated. It's not an it is an island, but it's not isolated from international trade. That happens after the fall of the Soviet Union, and then Cuba has to look for, goes through a periodo especial, and that's how they become very good buddies with Venezuela, and the rest is history. But Cuba really hasn't the blockade, or the economical blockade, is an excuse that is used even today by the Cuban government to maintain its power on the Cuban people. So, if I were, if honestly, if I were the U.S. government, if I were in charge of this, the U.S. government policy, I would say drop the economical sanctions, because that's what really this is. This is just these are just economical sanctions by the U.S. on Cuba, And you'll see that without the blockade, they can't continue blaming the U.S. for their problems, and then you'll see the Cuban government having to pivot to something else.
Russia became, the Cold War pushed Russia further away from North America. Cuba was kind of left to turn into the hellhole that it became. But we did that. We put them in that position.
Do you think there was ever a time when a Russian came to Cuba and tasted the food for the first time? And
There were Russian spies in Cuba. There was also a Russian listening post, a Soviet listening post in just outside of Havana, listening to American communications coming out of Guantanamo and the eastern seaboard. So I guess.
it was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, probably.
That was probably insane for them because they have dog shit food.
In
And they
Russia?
come down, yeah, and
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, we're gonna go see these fucking, I'm pretty sure they. I don't know.
I don't know.
Russian
There's
word for
like no
savages,
food
but
there
it's like-
now. Like, I don't know. I think it's better now. But here's the issue. Everything wrong with Cuba is our fault.
I don't know.
It's our
Sounds
we
like-
did.
Nah, I'm just gonna have to disagree with you. There are certain things that are the U.S. government's fault, but I'm sorry, it's been more than 60. It's almost 100 years. We're getting very, very close to 100 years of Cuban dictatorship, and yeah, sorry, no, but Cuba has only itself to play. Has a role. The Cuban government has a lot of faults into why Cuba is the way that it is. The United States has, I would say, 25%, but 75% it's Cuba in their decisions and their policies. So, yeah, no. Listen, I'm going to leave it up to here. It's just a few minutes left. If anybody wants to watch this entire video, they can do so. It's going to be in the links provided below. Let's go. Let's do the transition. Thank you all for joining me in this reaction, and see you later. Remember, every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Well, almost all Tuesdays at 10 a.m. I'm trying. For now, it's all Tuesdays at 10 a.m. But there may be some weeks where we don't have a podcast, but they will be announced early. 10 a.m. Spotify, you can listen to the podcast. This upcoming Tuesday, the 22nd at 10, I'm going to be having a conversation with Nieve de Los Angeles regarding this topic of the Spanish American War. So be on the lookout for that. If you want to listen to that right now, it's available on Patreon. So go to the Patreon and listen to my conversation with Nieve de Los Angeles regarding Luis Muñoz Rivera and all of the Spanish American War from the perspective of Puerto Rico and the U.S. government interests. So that's it. That's it for today. See you in the next video. Ciao.